7th Archbishop Thabo Makgoba Development Trust Annual Lecture on Values-Based Leadership. These annual lectures, established in 2014, is a partnership between Rhodes University, Rhodes Business School, and the Archbishop Thabo Makgoba Development Trust. It was born from a shared vision to foster dialogue on principled and ethical leadership. Over the years, this annual lecture has been graced by some of the most respected voices in South Africa's public life, and I like to read them out every year. And perhaps in 25 years' time, it will take all night to read them out, but that's a vision worth striving for. In 2015, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, now Professor Madonsela, former public protector. In 2016, former President Kgalema Motlanthe. And I always recall his words about Kgogisitse, the famous poet, around past, present, future, and how that continues to consider how our country, we need to move forward and address that. In 2017, Mrs. Graça Machel, the former First Lady and Human Rights Advocate. In 2018, Dr. Makosi Khoza, the former Member of Parliament. In 2019, Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, founder of the Gift of the Givers. In 2020, Mr. Mcebisi Jonas, the former Deputy Minister of Finance. In 2021, Mr. Tito Mboweni, the former Minister of Finance, Labour, and Governor of the Reserve Bank, who sadly passed away recently. In 2022, Ms. Buzisiwe Mavuso, the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. 2023, Mr. Wayne Duvenage, the CEO of Outer. And in 2024, Mr. Edward Kieswetter, the Commissioner of SARS. Each of these speakers challenged us to reflect on what values-based leadership means in their sphere of responsibility and how these lessons might be carried into our own lives and institutions. Tonight we continue this proud tradition with our 11th lecture. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge some of our distinguished guests who are with us this evening. We are honored to welcome Archbishop Thabo Makgoba and Mrs. Lungi Makgoba. It's always a privilege to have you with us in Makhanda. I will just ask His Grace to say a short prayer, please.
Thank you. Let us pray. Lord, we gather today as people of different faiths, people struggling with faith, but nonetheless we gather as your people. We gather to reflect on what value-based leadership may mean to our communities, to our context, to us as individuals. But we also gather on this 11th annual lecture, mindful that the business school is celebrating 25 years since its establishment, and we want to congratulate the university and especially Professor Owen, who has been at its helm for the last 15 years. So bless our speakers, bless each one of us, give us a clarity of thought, and give us open hearts to listen to the inputs and to engage our presenter. This prayer and the prayers of our hearts we offer in your precious name, even Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Your Grace. We also recognize the leadership of Rhodes University, including Professor Mabukang Mapasela, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, and currently our Acting Vice-Chancellor, as our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sizwe Mabazela, is overseas, and as I indicated to both His Grace and the Commissioner, Professor Mabazela sends warm greetings and says he's sorry that he can't be here this evening. Also, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnerships, Dr. Nomakwezi Vilakazi, our Acting CFO, Professor David Suri, and Dean of the Faculty of Commerce. And I would like to acknowledge Professor Suri tonight. He has been an extraordinary servant of this university, and we're very grateful for everything that you've done, Prof. Suri, in your capacity as Chair of the Board of Management of Rhodes Business School. I also want to acknowledge Acting Dean, Professor Lynette Lowe. And finally, a warm welcome to colleagues, students, alumni, community members, friends of Rhodes University. Your presence has this evening enriches the spirit of this annual lecture. I also want to acknowledge Litso Daniels and Nomalela High School. Thank you very much for coming tonight. And please, you must... and please do not leave until you've had your photograph taken with the Archbishop and the Commissioner. It is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Commissioner Unathi Kamlana, who is the Commissioner of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, referred to as the FSCA. Commissioner Kamlana is a proud old Rhodian who began his journey here in the foundation program and went on to complete a Master of Commerce in Taxation at Rhodes University and a Master of Science in Finance at the University of London. He has served with distinction in senior leadership roles at the National Treasury, South African Reserve Bank, and the Prudential Authority, and has represented South Africa at global regulatory forums such as the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision and the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. Since June 2021, he has been the first permanent commissioner of the FSCA, a leading South Africa's market conduct regulator with a clear focus on trust, fairness and accountability in the financial sector. In our letter of invitation to the 11th speaker, this is what we wrote in the letter. Under your leadership, Commissioner, the FSCA has strongly emphasized ensuring that the financial sector serves the needs of all South Africans, especially the historically marginalized. This directly addresses the trust deficit in institutions and aligns with the call for inclusive, citizen-faced and focused leadership articulated in the prior lectures. Hence, you are uniquely placed to share a vision of how we can all play our part in building a sustainable and inclusive society. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Commissioner Unathi Kamlana to deliver the 11th Archbishop Thabo Makgoba Development Trust Annual Lecture.
Thank you very much, Professor Skay, for the kind and generous introduction. Someone might have to fix the microphone. I am a man of modest elevation. After which we'll be able to just carry on. That should be all right. That should be all right. Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Munapula Mapasela, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Nomakwezi Vilagazi, the Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, and Mrs. Makgoba, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to deliver the 11th Archbishop Thabo Makgoba Development Trust Annual Lecture on values-based leadership. It is a pleasure for me to return to my alma mater, Rhodes University, an institution with a well-established reputation for academic excellence and innovation, whose very heartbeat is captured in the motto, where leaders learn. Indeed, I spent the best years of my early life on this campus. I remember my time here fondly, and I have more than just a degree to show for it. I also met my wife of 21 years just outside the building here. As I was telling colleagues earlier, she was a first-year student, I was a final-year student, and she looked a bit lost, and I offered to help. And a few minutes later, she was no longer lost but found. The rest, as they say, is history. Let me thank the Archbishop Thabo Makgoba Development Trust and the Rhodes Business School for the invitation and to congratulate the business school on its 25th anniversary this year. I follow to this podium several distinguished South Africans, women and men who have helped shape some of this country's most important institutions, including those in the broader financial sector. And I hope that, like them, I may contribute in a way that honors this platform in talking to the challenges that we face and by affirming the values that must guide us as leaders. In essence, I stand here this evening not just as a regulator, but as a South African who believes that the moment requires us to interrogate what it truly means to lead. And I want to suggest that what is required is more than mere titles, but rather leaders with conviction, anchored in values. This moment comes at a time when the world is undergoing profound change. Geopolitical tensions, global economic uncertainty, and societal shifts, which are testing not only our economic structures and institutional arrangements, but the very core and essence of leadership in our societies. Here at home in South Africa, we face deep and persistent socio-economic challenges. These realities demand vision, integrity, and courage from those entrusted with the responsibility and privilege of leadership. Among the many sectors that carry this weight, the financial sector stands out. The sector is both a reflection of these challenges and a powerful lever for addressing some of them, shaping how resources are allocated, how opportunities are expanded, and how trust is built within society. The financial sector, which includes banks, insurance companies, retirement funds, asset managers, and financial markets, is at the very heart of the South African economy, touching the lives of every citizen. Through financial services, we make daily economic transactions, save for the future, and preserve wealth across generations. The sector is also one of the largest contributors to the country's economy as measured in terms of GDP. It plays a vital role in job creation and bolsters government revenues through taxation. This makes the financial sector's growth and stability crucial to the success of our nation. But as history has taught us, this same sector can also be a source of profound socioeconomic misery. The 2008-2009 global financial crisis remains a stark reminder of this. The collapse of major financial institutions in the United States triggered a series of events that effectively froze economic activity in the US and in many other countries. It also eroded the livelihoods of millions. In fact, the total number of jobless people around the world increased by some 27 million by the end of 2009 compared to the 2 prior years. In South Africa, we responded by revamping our financial sector regulatory architecture, strengthening our regulatory architecture through the introduction of the Twin Peaks model of regulation, which I'm going to come back to. We established institutions designed to safeguard the integrity of the financial system and to protect South Africans from the kinds of excesses that triggered the financial crisis. One of the bodies created in the aftermath of the crisis is the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. As the market conduct regulator of the South African financial sector, the FSCA is mandated to enhance and support the efficiency and integrity of financial markets, and to ensure that financial customers are treated fairly by the financial institutions that serve them. The twin concepts of efficiency and integrity, which are at the heart of leadership, may appear to be opposites, yet I submit that they are in fact two inseparable twins. To understand why, we must consider the distinction between value and values. Value in financial and economic terms is relatively easy to measure. It shows up in price, in profit, and in growth. If a business with 100 billion rand valuation today grows into an enterprise worth 500 billion rand in 5 years' time, we say it has increased in value. But values are of a different order altogether. They are principles that guide behavior and the moral compass that distinguishes right from wrong. They are the internalized cognitive structures that guide choices by evoking a sense of basic principles of what is right and what is wrong. Values can be measured in the same way as economic or financial value, and yet they are worth so much more. As history has shown, the pursuit of value divorced from values leads to excess, misconduct, and systemic harm. We saw this most clearly in the Steinhoff scandal, one of the largest corporate failures in South African history. What was once hailed as a 200 billion global retail empire collapsed almost overnight when massive accounting irregularities and fraud were exposed, leaving pension funds, employees, and investors in ruin. We saw the same thing play out in the VBS Mutual Bank debacle, where greed and mismanagement robbed some of the most vulnerable South Africans of their savings and left municipalities unable to deliver essential services. Both Steinhoff and VBS illustrate the dangers of leadership that chases short-term gain while abandoning ethical responsibility. The cost, unfortunately, is borne not by the few who profited, but by the many who lost. And sadly, there are many such examples, both here at home and across the globe, where short-term gains have been quickly overshadowed by long-term harm and devastation for households, communities, and even entire economies. This insatiable greed and desire for quick gains is not just a private sector scourge. It is a disease that has permeated our society at large. It requires all of us to reflect on the value system and incentive structures that produce this malady of greed we often observe. The truth is the following. This is not going to change until the leaders in all spheres of society go back to what leadership is really about, and the people start demanding more and better from their leaders. Because leaders are, in a sense, a reflection of the character of the society they lead. They are a representation of what the people they lead celebrate, reward, or tolerate. We get the leaders we deserve. Hence the contradiction we sometimes face as a nation. A nation rich in visionaries, you don't need to look too far to find a South African who've led a movement, built incredible institutions, shaped global conversations. But we also at times battle a crisis of credibility, where leadership actions are too often synonymous with self-interest and a lack of accountability. The rule of law is central to the question of accountability, and as such critical for market integrity. Over time, because of this, we've seen the erosion of public trust, not just in government, but in corporate institutions and civil society as well. This trust deficit challenges the legitimacy and sustainability of the very institutions tasked with making the lives of citizens better. In too many spaces, leadership has become performative, just a title that is not tethered to any values. In his book, Faith, Courage, and Praying with Mandela, Archbishop Makgoba makes the poignant point that despite all the talk about how to fix what is broken in our country, and despite the policies we advocate for, the levels of inequality in our society remain shocking. South Africa has the highest Gini coefficient in the world. This means that the gap between the rich and the poor in our country is wider than it is anywhere else in the world. Our persistently high Gini coefficient is not just a measure of inequality. It's a mirror reflecting the absence of values-driven leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, we must remember that values are not born in a vacuum. They are instilled, nurtured, and reinforced through the institutions that shape our lives. Though we talk about values at an individual level, they have their genesis in groupings and institutions. Faith institutions, for example, like the churches that Archbishop Makgoba leads, continue to be anchors of these moral teachings. If we draw from the Holy Scriptures, we find many examples of the importance of values in how we live our lives and how we lead, or how we should lead. Proverbs 16 verse 8, for example, says, "It is far better to be right and poor than to be wrong and rich." This is a reminder that integrity outweighs material gain, and its benefits and worth stand the test of time. Schools and universities are also among the critical institutions for shaping values. Teachers and lecturers play a key role, not only by imparting knowledge, but by modeling ethical behavior and framing questions of purpose alongside questions of profit. This is why those who teach future business executives, such as the business school, bear the responsibility of ensuring that their graduates and students understand and appreciate the symbiotic relationship between values and value. And this brings us directly to the world of markets themselves, where the tension between value and values is most visible. This tension plays out in real economies, in boardrooms, and in the daily lives of citizens. Markets are powerful engines of growth, but they can also be blind to principles such as fairness, justice, and dignity. Left unchecked, they can reward behavior that undermines trust and destabilizes society. This is precisely the tension that Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England and now the Prime Minister of Canada, reflects on in his book, Values, An Economist's Guide to Everything That Matters, when he says, and I quote, market fundamentalism corrodes social values and fosters the crisis of our age, close quote. Carney makes the point that markets don't have values, but people do. He cautions that we must close the gap between what we value and what the market prices. After all, we are living in a time that confuses market value with human value. A world where we know the price of Amazon, the company, but not the value of the Amazon region. A world where technology threatens to replace our jobs rather than improve them. Indeed, we see this reality unfolding before us. We often see headlines talking about how AI and other new technological innovations will replace certain job categories. On the one hand, these tools promise to make businesses and even governments more efficient in delivering products and services. Let's take the financial sector as an example. Technology has expanded access, enhanced efficiencies, increased profits. But on the other hand, these advances raise difficult questions about customer protection, ethical use, responsible deployment, broader human impact of technological change, etc. None of this is to say that technology is inherently harmful or that progress should be resisted. I'm not advocating for Ludism, the movement of advocates against new technologies. I'm fully in favor of embracing technology and innovation. But, and this is an important but, it must be done responsibly. By that I mean technology must be adopted in a way that protects jobs where possible, ensures inclusion rather than exclusion, guards against exploitation, and places fairness and integrity at the center of innovation. Yes, technology brings enormous benefits, but we must remain mindful of these risks and address them as adoption increases. At the FSCA, this is exactly what we strive to do, to embrace technology as an enabler while ensuring that it is applied in a way that protects consumers, strengthens trust, and keep people, not just profits, at the heart of the financial system. In fact, the FSA is currently undergoing the largest digital transformation in its history. And this large-scale investment that we are making in supervisory technologies, the so-called SupTech, involves building future-fit ICT systems to strengthen our supervisory and enforcement capabilities, turning data into insights that drive regulatory effectiveness in the digital age. This will help us regulate better, protect consumers against unfair treatment by financial institutions, and reduce exposure to scams and other forms of online harm. That is, enhanced efficiencies in the execution of our public mandate. The point is, while we can and should adopt technology, the adoption must be grounded in a value system that puts the people we serve at the forefront. This balance between innovation and responsibility points us back to Kani's point, which I agree with. We must bring a dose of humanity, our values, into the equation. This is not something we can legislate into existence or force through regulation and enforcement actions alone. And this is precisely what complicates the life of a regulator. Unlike financial ratios or capital requirements, values cannot simply be prescribed and measured. Regulators are not a Tom Cruise character in the 2002 Steven Spielberg movie Minority Report. Unlike in that movie, we cannot see crime or misconduct before it is committed, nor can we anticipate and regulate for all circumstances. We would have loved to be the Tom Cruise character, identifying misconduct before it happens and dealing with the perpetrators to be. But real life does not allow that kind of luxury. The best we can do is to build frameworks that deter misconduct and respond decisively when it occurs. So, our first line of defense is nurture, meaning the hope that people who work in and lead our institutions have been shaped by the right kind of values: honesty, fairness, and integrity at home. We have to hope that the families and communities that raised them instilled a sense of accountability and responsibility in them, and that their institutions of faith imbued in them the ability to tell the difference between what's right and what's wrong. For as Proverbs 22 verse 6 reminds us, if you train up a child in the way they should go, when they are older, they will not depart from it. Values formed early in life become the guardrails that no regulation can substitute for. Even so, nurture alone is not enough. Values must also be reinforced within the very institutions that hold positions of trust. This is where governance becomes critical. Governance bodies of financial institutions, and by this I mean boards of directors, audit committees, executive leaders, and so on, they must be the frontline enforcers of ethical behavior and guide the basic principles of right and wrong. In short, governance bodies are called to lead by example, showing through their choices that long-term trust and sustainability matter more than short-term gains. Taken together, nurture, education, governance, and regulation form the lines of defense that uphold integrity in our financial system. Families and communities shape character, faith institutions ground morality, schools and universities refine judgment, governance structures embed ethics into institutions. Regulators act as the final safeguard when all else has failed. For in the end, the strength of our financial system rests not only on the soundness of its balance sheets or the sophistication of its technologies, but on the depth of the values that guide its leaders. This is the foundation on which trust is built, and without trust, no financial system, no matter how efficient or sophisticated, can endure. As I draw to a close, let me underscore the sentiment that we cannot be content to live in an endless cycle of chasing quick gains. That is not what will secure the future of our institutions or of our children or of our society. Those who are in leadership must make integrity-driven choices, even when faced with pressure or in times of crisis. This is the only way we will build lasting trust and not leave broken institutions for future generations to fix. History has shown us time and again, from financial crises to corporate scandals here at home, that when value is pursued without values, the outcome is not prosperity, but destruction. Our changing world is testing leadership more than ever before. The challenges are vast. Geopolitical tensions, technological disruption, climate risk, social inequality, political instability, and so on. In such a context, leadership cannot be reduced to chasing profits. It must be anchored on something deeper, and that is putting people first and balancing innovation with inclusion, efficiency with fairness, and growth with sustainability. As Dr. Roel Khoza reminds us in his 2011 book, Attuned Leadership, probity is the ethical imperative to remain upright and honest in the service of others. It is this concept of probity that reminds us that leadership is not about self, but essentially it is about service. Tonight then, I leave you with this call to commit ourselves to ensuring that our pursuit of values, will be guided, will be anchored, and let us lead in such a way that future generations will say, in a time of great disruption, and uncertainty. We chose the harder path, the path of integrity, of justice, of humility, and of hope. And so, may we as leaders strive to embody these timeless principles, to honor our word, to reject corruption, and to act with integrity, even when it costs us. For it is only through such leadership that our institutions will thrive, our economy will endure, and our nation will rise. To the future leaders sitting in this room, and those watching online as well, I want to say this: South Africa does not need more titles. What we need is more leaders who walk in truth. When you take up leadership positions, focus not just on how skilled you are and what the job can do for you, but on what anchors you. Find a way to marry your skills with the values that anchor who you are, so that you can give respite to a country and a people that so desperately need it. Let us not expect this kind of leadership to come from others, but from ourselves. Remember the words of the poet and activist June Jordan, who in her 1978 poem for South African women said, "We are the ones we've been waiting for." Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for a powerful and thought-provoking lecture. We now open the floor for a short Q&A session. I hope there is a roving mic, perhaps. Thank you. Normally what you try to do is to take 3 short questions at a time. You're welcome to say your name. Please keep the questions short, and then you can address a question to the Commissioner. You're also at liberty to address a question to the Archbishop, and this is the first time that we're doing this, and this was at the prompting of the FSCA, so thank you for that. Questions, please. Nico.
Thank you so much. Thabo Buliko at the Business School. I'm putting this to the Commissioner, but I can leave the other panelists to also respond. We find ourselves with interesting technologies such as the blockchain and the Bitcoin. And the scary part about this, or even AI now, how do you use these tools for inclusion? Because it seems to me, I remember I was at a game farm about a week or 2 ago on some work, hopefully on, and I couldn't do anything when there was no internet. My AI tools were dead. I couldn't get any internet. I couldn't move. So how do we do this? And I think about a normal village, Engutu. It doesn't have these things. It doesn't have this internet. It doesn't have this. So these wonderful things are putting them further and further behind. How can we get them included?
Next question. This at the back. Thank you. Van Vossen and Gerrit Steyn to get you. You have a loud voice.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Makgoba, third year economics student in Rhodes University. and I have two questions from the Commissioner regarding financial inclusion as well as informal economy and regulation. On financial inclusion will be, many South Africans remain excluded from the formal financial sector. How does the FSCA working to expand financial inclusion, more particular in informal settlement and rural areas? The second question, it will be on informal economy and regulation. The taxi industry moves millions of South Africans daily and handle large amounts of cash. Yet much of it remains outside the formal financial system. How can the FSCA help bring such informal industry into regulated finance without destroying their independence?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Good evening, Archbishop. Thank you very much for that. So my name is Wendy McCallum from the Department of Economics at the university. And Commissioner, if you could implore lecturers in the Commerce faculty to teach one thing in our courses where we discuss financial sector regulation, what would you like for us to impart to students that is going to make your job easier in the future? This one.
Thank you very much. Excellent questions all around. So let me start with the question, the blockchain question. I think there's two things. So the first is around the need to invest in infrastructure that makes that these types of technologies are accessible even in the rural parts. And there's a lot of conversations around infrastructure shortages, and how we should make sure that we are able to attract the kind of capital to roll out infrastructure. So these are good technologies. They've improved access. They've resulted in reduced costs as well. So we do want them to be rolled out. But, and this is an important but, responsibly. They need to be rolled out and consumed and interacted with responsibly. These are inherently risky technologies, and therefore consumer education together with the investment in infrastructure have to go hand in hand if we are going to have a sustainable solution for this. On the question about what should be taught in terms of a financial sector regulation course, ethical leadership. I think ethical leadership. I think that there is this misconception that when you talk about issues of ethics, when you talk about EQ, you're talking about soft issues. Those aren't soft. Careers have been ruined because people cannot interact properly with each other. Careers have been certainly ruined because people behave unethically or were not able to pick up unethical behavior in the financial institutions that they interact with. I made an example here of two, Steinhoff and VBS. Both of them had supervisory teams. I'll leave it there. Yes, financial inclusion, exclusion, and the informal economy. Let me start with inclusion. So the work that we've done as a country actually is commendable around inclusion. We've improved significantly access to financial services. The pivot now in terms of the focus of the work is from access to usage. access to usage. So people have got access to bank accounts, but they get one transaction into that bank account, they withdraw all the money, and it's no longer there. So there isn't enhanced utilization for benefit of what they have access to. So there's a lot of work now that's focused specifically on consumer well-being, financial well-being, and it's focused on how can we teach people, provide them with information that empowers them to use what they can access now better than before. Informality, again, is part of the conversation around consumer education. It is about providing information which demonstrates why it is better for your money to not be kept under the mattress and be counted for in the formal financial system. Why is that better? And that conversation can then result in, okay, after you're comfortable for it to be in a bank account, let's then talk about investment products that you can make more money because you're formalized. And then you can have a broader conversation about usage of financial services. But it's got to start with consumer education. Information is power.
Next round of 3 questions. Front.
Thank you, Commissioner and Your Grace. My name is Lushendran Patha from OM Bank. I really appreciated your speech, Commissioner, and I have a question. If you could take us back to what's behind the Commissioner and something that's had an impact on you, because you did mention about the importance of values as we're growing up and what's being taught to us. So if you, Commissioner, and Your Grace could tell us about a simple story about growing up that entrenched values in your lives. We'd appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner.
At the back.
Hi, Commissioner. My name is Annalisa, second-year commerce student. I have a question. As young individuals, I've noticed that there's a sort of a gap in terms of how students should be saving their money. There's a challenge in South Africa where students are not saving, nor are they saving towards their futures, right? So how do you recommend, or where should we be investing our money in order for it to have proper returns and growth, in order for us to have successful futures and proper retirement plans? Thank you.
Last question for this round. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Vusim Tombeni. I'm the former business school alumni of Rhodes University. Actually, I'm not from the financial side of things. Every time people, when they talk finances, I get intimidated. Perhaps I'm the wrong person to ask this. Pardon me. One question, I always hear people talk one currency for Africa. Do we have to have that kind of a talk, or how do we enhance if we have to have that kind of question getting on, and how it will help us advance our economic values as you were explaining it? Thank you.
This is great to see you here. So just to recap on the 3 questions, a short story about each of you when you were young and growing up that had a profound impact on you. How should students save? Access usage, and then lastly, a single currency for Africa.
All right, I can start with the story while growing up. So I was raised by my grandparents. My mother was busy with work. They had a very strong work ethic. Would be woken up very early, around 5 a.m., to go first to the garden, to do the work for about an hour, and then, only after then, you come back and you have breakfast and you go to school. And what this taught me was the importance of diligence, keeping at it, staying the course until you see the results. Now, I think in kind of woke language, that would be referred to as showing up consistently. And this is a very serious issue because I know a lot of people, including very senior executives, who struggle to show up. They are very, very volatile in terms of how they show up. Just their kind of, their brand can even suffer at work because they can't show up consistently. When it's not nice, they're not there. When they're avoiding, if there's going to be a confrontational kind of meeting, if for example, there was a strike and we have to meet with trade unions to engage on their demands, executives are ill that day because they can't show up consistently. So this is what I learned from that. That it doesn't matter whether it's cold or hot, you start in the garden, you do your role, you plant what you must, you water it, only after then you're going to get breakfast and go to school. So that's my story. And then, sorry, remind me another question. It's about... Yes, savings products for young people. Firstly, congratulations that you are already thinking about saving. Really, really, congratulations. Well done, well done. I think you even gave an example of retirement kind of savings product, which is really well done. So there's lots of different types of savings products, including those that are specifically in terms of how they are marketed, that they will not attract tax until a certain level of interest. I am assuming that because you're a student, you will be putting in not a lot of money. I would suggest that you do that. You put in those ones where your entire return is not going to be taxed. That will encourage you because you can then take all of your return and reinvest if there's no pressure for you to withdraw. There's a lot of different types of financial products which are accessible. One of the things that I always say to young people when they talk about saving is that you can do it, because they talk about it as if it's something that is completely inaccessible, as if it's expensive. You can put away whatever amount of money a month in a savings account, and that is savings. It's very, very easy, actually. It just requires discipline and consistency. Put away whatever money you can afford. Do so consistently, starting when you did, and when you are measuring how much the growth is, you will not regret the decision. So start as soon as possible, and there's lots of different types and products. I'll leave that for you to research. And then... And single currency. Oh, I was hoping that someone else was going to talk through the single currency question. So, okay, I'm going to try to be apolitical about it. So a currency requires an economy to have substantial assets that back up the value of a currency, and transactions that currency is accepted in, either as a buyer or as a seller. Without convergence of policies between countries,
it makes no sense for any of those countries to think that they can have a currency. I'm trying to put this in the most simple way possible. Convergence, macroeconomic convergence, is what is required before you can have a currency. And the people that are talking about a currency right now have not done sufficient work amongst them as a country, as countries, to actually progress macroeconomic convergence. Until then, it's not a serious debate, is my view.
Thank you very much. On the question of saving, let me also weave a story from where I come from Makgoba originally. There are 3 girls who studied in a university that side, and over a 4-year period at that university, they saved some money from NSFAS. And one of them bought a cow, and one of them bought seedlings, and now they run an agro business in the area, and through a company there, ZZ2, their product is now in some Pick and Pays in somewhere. I'm wanting to stress the point that you can save. Maybe from NSFAS or from any income that you have, and be an entrepreneur, for example. My story has been tainted by the fact that I've journeyed a long time ago as a priest and wearing various hats, and also sitting here and listening to people talk about values-based leadership. But I seem to recall my mother in Setswana saying, "Ngwana Mosotho sinna o ipulela motho o motle ha bolela ke ba bang." Yeah. In other words, you are more beautiful if others talk about you than yourself. And but within that caution, she was highlighting an important principle that we are all important and made in the image of God or the Creator. And so the value of respecting each one that I encounter and meet has been very key in my life. And then secondly, the value of respecting the dignity of difference was really driven home by that story from my mother. And then lastly, the value of respecting the integrity of creation came from when my mother used to say, please tidy up after yourself, don't throw plastic everywhere. And so I can say from that story there are key values: respect the dignity of others, celebrate the difference of people, and uphold the sanctity of creation. Thank you so much.
Okay, last round of 3 questions. Yes, sir. Okay, so let's go in this order: there, and there, and that's the wrap on the questions. Please keep the questions short.
Good evening, Archbishop, and good evening, Sir Mr. Unathi. I've got a concern. My name is Makaya Mzongwan from the community of Grahamstown. My mother was one of the workers here at Rhodes University. Officer, I think maybe the Archbishop could remember She was the worker here. I'm sure the Archbishop can. She is Miss Patricia Blighty. She was one of the workers when the Archbishop was a student here. My core question is, how can we actually include the community, like encouragement for economic development? But my concern is, and my challenge as well, is to students. We often complain of the fact that there are no jobs in South Africa. There is nothing. Students go, they excel and they sit and do nothing after that. I think everybody knows about that kind of a concern. There is also a contribution that was made by one of the people who are in Parliament now, that is Mr. Songe Zuzibi. I liked the fact that he once said, the industries that are here in the world are not final. Why don't we make industries ourselves? Because we cannot sit and say, Mr. So-and-so will be doing a pick and pay thing and then people can work. Why can't we make jobs that are not there by ourselves? Students must stop complaining and saying there are no jobs in South Africa. They must make jobs. South Africa has got a well-educated people. Everybody is being educated. Lots of people are undergoing tertiary education and what have you. It's just simple.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank
can
you.
you just finish your question?
Yes.
Now? Thank you.
It is just simple. In our communities, there is nothing. Students must group up and see what is a value for our communities. For instance, at a certain informal settlement there, they must look around and say, what is needed here?
Okay, so I think we've got your question.
Yes,
Thank you.
they must
Okay, thank you.
sit down
Thank you very much.
and make sure that there is an industry. There are artisans in our communities who have no qualifications. They must just do that and stop complaining and make industries for our South Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll get the question. Okay, next question is Matt, and then the SRC.
Thank you. My name is Matt. I'm a Rhodes alumni. I've got one question at the heart of it all. How safe is the financial regulatory sector from political interference? And are you making any measures to safeguard or just ensure that for now, you're doing a fantastic job, that we don't have the wrong people in your position? Are we safe for the next 15 years?
Is that when you draw your first pot out of the two pot? Last question, thank you.
Good evening, Archbishop and the Commissioner. My name is Buleng Pichela, the SRC Treasurer General. In the past few days, there was a proposal to link the student debt to the credit bureau, where people are blacklisted for not paying. And on one hand, we are confronted with the sustainability challenges of NSFAS, where even those who can afford to pay back often do not, while demanding for funding to continue. And on the other hand, we face the reality that such a system could place an even heavier burden on the poor, effectively taxing them before they have had a fair chance to build their own wealth. So my question is, how do we strike a balance between ensuring the long-term sustainability of the student funding while not entrenching cycles of poverty and inequality for the very communities the system is meant to uphold and uplift? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. Let me start with this question. I think it relates to the regulations that have just been issued. They are regulations of the National Credit Act. What I will suggest that students do, I quite appreciate the point that if credit-related information or default-related information of students is made available to credit bureaus, it might actually make access to credit or even access to work a little bit difficult. There is an opportunity right now, because of the public consultation process on these regulations, for students and student bodies to raise their concerns very clearly, very sharply with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, so that you can have a conversation about what your concerns are. I don't envisage that as the comments and concerns that you have will be ignored. I can't imagine that is the answer that they would give. So I would encourage you to be actively engaged in talking to what is the objective of these amendments that they're proposing, how you think they're going to be affecting students, and importantly, what are you putting on the table as an alternative for the DTIC to consider. So that's one. On the question, the very difficult question about security of tenure, issues around how do we protect our institutions. The institutions such as the FSCA have an executive authority. The executive authority is the Minister of Finance. He is the person who is charged with the responsibility to appoint the leadership. Once the leadership is appointed, the law says they should, in exercising their duties, do so without fear, favor, or prejudice. So once you are appointed, you are required to perform your duties competently, without fear, favor, or prejudice. But you do that until the end of your term. When your terms ended, your terms ended. The person who's the appointing authority can appoint someone else. And our laws are defined that way. It's possible that they might give someone else who's worse than you, but I don't want us to assume that if it is not me, the next guy is worse. It's possible that there's a better person that they can find after me. And I think we should think about these institutions that way. The thing that we can insist on in terms of accountability is that the processes for replacing senior executives in institutions of state, that those processes are transparent, that they can be scrutinized, and that when the public are not happy, they can challenge them in court, and so on. We can insist on that. But we can't say to them, oh, we like this guy, we think he's good, can you please stay? It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. The third question.
Students must stop complaining.
Oh, yeah. So basically, students must stop complaining. There's a lot of opportunities that are out there if students would just embrace those opportunities, and they can also innovate and come up with their own things and create employment opportunities and businesses. That was my understanding of that as basically a call to action for young people, given the challenge that we have of youth unemployment in this country. Earlier, when we were being interviewed at RMR, I made the statement that opportunities are not given, they are taken. So young people have to have that attitude. If you don't get a job, tough, you can get something else. And go get it.
Any last word from you?
Yes, I just want to thank you for the question. As the Commissioner said, the inequality in South Africa has to be bridged in one way or the other. And if students can be entrepreneurs, that will really be a big plus. But my contribution is if each one of us here could take it as their vocation to leave this place better than we found it, we will be a wonderful country. So thank you so much.
God, also, you didn't ask the question to me, but I think what we need to acknowledge here, that in Makhanda, the city of educational excellence, and drawing on the vision, and some of our notable colleagues are here, as we know that only 25% of children in the early grades can read for meaning. This is shocking. It's diabolical. It can't carry on. In Makhanda, through the VC's initiative and all the good work that's being done there, we are twice the national average. It's still a long way to go. But what we need to do as young people is make sure that the younger people are able to read for meaning, to learn. And we can echo the words of Madiba there. We cannot in any way compromise the education. And that's where, for some people, it's still going to be a long-term thing, but it can, as the Commissioner's highlighted, the message that I'm taking away tonight is we must be clear about value and values. You cannot have one at the expense of the other. So thank you very much again. Just if you'll just bear with me, we would just like to acknowledge our prize presentations. So a highlight of the evening is that we have some economics prizes that very generously are sponsored by First National Bank. And I would like to acknowledge, sorry, I've just lost my place for a moment there. I'll be with you back in a moment. So just to acknowledge Mr. Imulisi Magugu, who's the First National Bank Account Executive. Mr. Magugu, are you here? Thank you very much. So I see some of the prize winners are here, and I think it's really just to acknowledge and to really thank First National Bank for the incredible generosity. So third prize this year goes to Shelley Edwards. Shelley, congratulations. So it was in the Postgraduate Diploma in Enterprise Management 2025 cohort. Second place to Sibonelo Dube, also from the Postgraduate Diploma Enterprise Management 2025 cohort. And first place goes to Taryn Potts, also from the Postgraduate Diploma Enterprise Management 2025 cohort. So, Mr. Magugu, thank you. We really do acknowledge and appreciate the support of First National Bank. Thank you very much. The Responsible Leadership Essay Prize this year is awarded to an MBA student who most powerfully articulates what it means to lead responsibly in today's world. Your Grace, in the past I've asked you to read the citation. You've just kicked it back to me. So, with your permission, I'll read the citation. So this year's recipient is Jody Naidu. Jody actually resides and works in Dubai. So I'd like to read the citation. A bridge, a strong symbol of connection, progress and change, acts as an intuitive representation of responsible leadership. In this model, leadership is no longer defined in terms of power and status, but in terms of connection, dignity, and stewardship. The foundation of this bridge epitomizes the challenges faced in 21st century workplaces: inequality, conflict, lack of opportunities, incomplete training, and limited career progress. The methods that would solve those challenges are integrity, empathy, courage, accountability, and ESG considerations. Congratulations to Jody. So as we bring the evening to a close, I'd like to just call upon Ross Shelton, who is our MBA 2024 class president, to express a vote of thanks for our 11th speaker tonight. And then I will also conclude with a few thanks of my own. And then I'm going to ask our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Makgoba Mapasela, to just please come and sit in the chair here, because I'll be asking you to hand over something to the Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I was going to put it in here, but I'll just hold it. I'm grateful that I get to give thanks to Commissioner Unathi Kamlana for being here tonight. And it also fills my heart for a big reason, because I didn't realize that we met both our wives through Rhodes University. Except my wife of 16 years, if I had to tell her that she was found after she'd met me, I'd be on the next episode of Wives with Knives on Netflix. But it made me feel good that we both met our wives here. Where do I even begin to say thanks? But thank you for taking the time to convey such a powerful and insightful lecture, Commissioner. I think, we all know the old saying, charity starts at home, but I think governance needs to start at home with all of us. And it needs to be not a thing that we just say, but a thing that we live. And it needs to be something where, when we see injustice, we need to speak about it without fear of retribution. It needs to be something that we hold dear to our hearts, because I think if we are going to grow as a country or as an economy or as a people, then we need to be responsible leaders and have responsible leaders that hold shared value at the core of their hearts. So thank you for that, Commissioner. I know not only myself, but I think everybody in the room is leaving here tonight empowered after such a beautiful and inspirational speech. So thank you for taking the time to be here, Commissioner.
So a small token of our appreciation, Commissioner. So our Deputy Vice Chancellor will hand this over to you. And we hope it'll have pride of place on the wall. Promise not to keep you much longer. Thank you very much, Professor Mapasela. So just some also closing thanks from my side. Really to the amazing team at the FSCA and to Tembisa sitting here, who pushed us hard, but we're up for it. So it's really been a fantastic journey from our very first conversation at the beginning of the year, and showing that you showed up, right? We've got to take that message home every single day now. We're going to show up. Secondly, to an amazing comms and advancement team, to Icona and all the team that were here. We know you worked on Saturdays. We know that you're a bit tight on resources at the moment, but you pulled it off for us. So thank you very much to comms and advancement. You really deserve a round of applause there. And then to Charmaine Avery and her team, Jay Pillay. Unfortunately for you, I found you in the Steve Biko dining room, right? And then I let Tembisa go, because after that, we switched the venue. Charmaine managed to convince the registrar to shift lectures out of here. The colleagues accepted that. I told Tembisa at Rhodes University, lectures do not do those things too easily. But Charmaine, you did it, and to your team, thank you very much. I don't know if I'm getting you into trouble, Charmaine, because I don't want to say that it's something that's easy for you. Sounds like the Emmy Awards here. And then, of course, to our amazing team at the Rhodes Business School. You know, I think it's just, I went in today, a team sitting in the front office there, looking really amazing. I probably said something a little bit inappropriate in relation to if I was 20 years younger. But you know what I mean by that, and I said the real directors of the business school are sitting there, and I heard a viewer say highball. So I'm not sure what that meant to a viewer, but really, you know, tonight is a testament to you and the team. So all of you, Aviwe, Sipakazi, Cindy, Vusi, who really helped pull this off. And then, of course, my colleagues in the business school, two of whom could not be here tonight because they're representing us at the MBA Fair in Sandton. Today was officially the start of our 25th anniversary. It's a very proud moment in the history of Rhodes Business School. And so tomorrow night there's a function, on Saturday there's a function, on Saturday morning there's the ribbon cutting ceremony, and I really want to acknowledge our DVC, Professor Monapula Mapasela, who has played a large role in the refurbishment of the business school, and also to Professor Dave Suri, who has been my confidant and my friend, and somebody who is actually, you know, friendship is friendship, but governance is governance. And you know, that has never, ever been compromised. So Prof. Suri, again, thank you very much for everything that you've done for the business school. And lastly and finally, to all of you, colleagues, students, alumni, friends of Rhodes University, thank you for joining us this evening. Your presence and engagement ensure that this annual lecture continues to thrive as a space for dialogue on leadership, values, and responsibility. Please travel safely and continue the conversations that have been sparked tonight. And that means that from now on, we're all going to show up.